Hi everyone, Izza here from Nexodus. We are over the moon to be co-producing this podcast and the panel with the Coworking Assembly at the Workspace Design Show in our hometown of London at the end of February. The co-working and flexible workspace industries are at the most exciting phase yet, as more people have changed the way they work since COVID, and tech accelerated. There is a link in the show notes to a blog post on our AI-powered Trends and Insights dashboard, which allows workspaces to make data-driven decisions. So do have a read as we continue our development of AI tools this year and beyond. We will see you at the Workspace Design Show, and do join the Co-working Assembly and us at Coworking Spain in May.
Hello, folks, and welcome to one of the most special co-working value podcasts I've ever done. Maybe one of the most special podcasts I've ever done in my life. Today in the co-working assembly studio, we have 5 amazing people who are also going to be on our panel at the Workspace Design Show in the Business Design Centre in London on the 27th of February. So we're going to dive straight in. As you go around, because we're going to bat the question around to people, just say who you are really quickly. And there's going to be links in the show notes to this to everybody here. And most of you listening, I know will know who these people are. But the question we're going to kick around today is, why is co-working important? And there's a range of perspectives from all over the world here. So, Cecile, do you want to go first and say, why is that important to you?
I think co-working is really important in terms of levelling up the country. I think it's a really good opportunity, and it's also a great opportunity for businesses to access talent that they may not otherwise have access to. So if we think about cultural differences or gender differences, moving to London, for example, is not going to be accessible or easy for many people. So having a co-working space or a service means that people can plug in from anywhere and crack on whilst living their very best life wherever they live.
Thank you very much. Mark, what do you think?
Hi. Well, for me, co-working, it's a tool. I completely agree with what you said, but for me, it's a tool to help individual. It's not only about relocation, but also it's about opening new opportunities for them, meeting future peace partner, even sometimes finding love. Sometimes happens, and it's a general tool for connecting people, especially in this time in which remote work it's really a thing. It makes for people much easier to work somewhere close to their home instead of a really crazy commute that can means 33 hours per month if you're commuting 45 minutes back and forth every single day. So finding a place near to your place is a better work-life balance, and for sure you will feel more connected and not live loneliness. Don't feel the loneliness working from home alone.
Who do you want to go to next, Mark?
Sorry?
Who do you want to go to next, Mark?
Yeah, I think that David, it's my call.
Nice. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate everything that's been said there. A couple of extra things for me, I guess. Oh, by the way, I'm David from Nook. We make a little family of plug and play mindful spaces to help environments become more flexible and to unlock the potential in people's brains. And so for me, one of the key things for me is that co-working is a haven for folks who often don't fit in elsewhere, want to start companies because they don't fit in large organizations, or they're very purpose-driven. It's a place where purpose is encouraged greatly. And one of the things I love about it in particular is that it's an incredible meeting point between the startup and the established, between the different industries, the different sectors and the different organizations. And one of the things I love to see co-working do is push standards out and forward and, be early adapters and drive modes of operation that then filter into smaller companies and bigger companies and out into the world and through events. So that's one of the, those are a couple of things that fascinate me. And I'd love to hear what Pauline thinks.
Thanks, David, for handing over the mic to me. I'm Pauline. I'm the co-author of a book called Around the World in 250 Co-working Spaces. I think for me what's really important through co-working also are like a few things. The first one being that from our experience, it definitely changes the landscape of a neighborhood or even a city from the day it opens. I always invite people who've never really been into co-working spaces or thought about it to do a before-after. So what happened when the co-working space opened? And it's usually allowing certain types of communities to have a safe space where they can be together, where they can work, or even, as has been said before, network and get to find people who feel very like-minded. So I think that's very important. And yeah, I think, Karen, what do you think?
Thanks, Pauline. I guess for me as the new kid on the block with a relatively brand new space, I guess one of our intentions right from the beginning was to make an affordable space. Our borough is probably one of the most deprived in London, with very high. It's got the youngest youth population in the country. So it was about future-proofing and building a space where everybody could feel comfortable, where they can interact with other humans, even if not working on the same sort of business, but just feeling that connection. And definitely, really, the key thing for us was the affordability, but making the surroundings feel like they're in central London, but with kind of an East End price attached to that.
I can't let you get away with the new kid on the block thing, Karen. So how long has the Beck been going?
Oh, so we celebrate our 7th birthday as a social enterprise on the day of the Workspace Design Show. In fact,
Yahoo.
I'll bring cake. I'll bring cake.
So while that might not be a co-working space, it, like in the purest term that people like us think, but that is a building where a lot of local people go and get their business kicked into shape. Is that
absolutely right? We've renamed it Bethlehem. There's absolutely no room at the inn. So we've got two we started with one 7 years ago, one purpose-built enterprise centre, and then we added another conversion, and then we've added 360 onto it as well. So it's been a journey. Very different client bases in all the buildings, but 360 has probably been kind of the most challenging in terms of it's the first co-working space in our borough, and people were unsure what it was for and what to do once they were in it. So, but yeah, it's coming together now.
It's beautiful. I'm going to go to Pauline because she has visited a couple of spaces in the world over the years. So how do you create spaces that make people feel like they belong? And I know one size fits all, and what I definitely want to tease out of you is your recipe quote here.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, because you said it, I'm going to say it. We always say, at least the travel experiences we've had have allowed us to notice that co-working is the same dish everyone cooks differently. That's the quote we often bring up in conversations. So I think to your question, we see that no co-working space is really the same. They're always the reflection of the founders, the team, and they always create experiences that are also very much connected to those people, so the founders themselves or the team themselves, because they all want to achieve something. They all have a why, or they all have like a mission that they want to achieve through co-working. So we do see the very big difference from one space to another. We've never said, oh yeah, we had the same experience somewhere. It's always very, very unique and always very, very different. Has a lot of soul in it, let's say.
That's it. Mark, what about that? How do you create spaces that make people feel like they belong?
I think that everything starts with thinking, who are you really building the co-working for? Sometimes I had conversation with small operators, but especially big ones, which they are like talking to you and explaining that they are focused on 30 to 45, 100 people team. And then suddenly when you tell them that maybe they are not the space built for freelancer, they say, no, but our space is perfect, which in my opinion, it does not make sense, because if you are like working on one direction, it's not going to work for the other because the needs are really different. So in my opinion, the first thing that you have to do is to really focus on one kind of client. And I'm not talking all about the size of the like huge offices or freelancers, like individuals or huge companies. It's not only that, but also when you're thinking about freelancers or companies, also it's about which kind of industry, what they do, what they need. So then you will create a space which matches their needs. But then after that, you have also to think about not only providing a space, which is usually the most usual mistake that operators do, but also to create a moment in which people can bump to each other in an organic way. So it does not feel awkward, does not feel forced. It's something that is just natural. And creating those moments is really, really important, because otherwise, if you rely on chance, it's not going to work. So that's super important to create events. And then it's like, again, thinking on who is using the space, who are you aiming to be in the space, and then create something. Those moments should be aligned with what they like, what they are interested in, not only on a professional level, but also on a personal level. That will be a hit for sure. But I would love to know what Karen thinks about.
I think so. I mean, we've got a couple of, which we were never intending to do. We've now got a couple of anchor tenants, and the space wasn't built with them in mind, but they definitely fit within the space. So one organisation is a young people's organisation called Boxer. It works with young people, disadvantaged young people, and does what it says on the tin, boxing, and it's got gyms and things. And the other one, we've actually moved a housing association who have a very funky outlook on supporting our vulnerable people in borough to seek permanent accommodation through a subsidiary company of the council in called Reside. And then we've got a number of freelancers that are using the space as well. And they've definitely found their own mix and their niche. And it seems to be growing a community. I think we put far too much focus in the beginning on what we thought should happen in the space rather than allowing it to grow organically. But I'd be interested in what Asil thinks as well about that.
So I was just really curious actually to dig in a bit more to Pauline's point about making it a recipe that reflects the owner operator, because I think if we look at operators that have failed, I think they've made it too personal. And I think like how do you broaden your appeal? Because I mean I think essentially a lot of co-working spaces are rather cult-like, and you have to keep people engaged, otherwise they go to another. What do you think of that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think those were like two different quotes. They don't necessarily work together. One realization was that yes, working is the same dish, that everyone cooks differently, so it means the ingredients are different. Some people will focus more on certain services than others. Some people will provide certain spaces that other spaces won't have. But at the end of the day, it's always related to what the team that makes the space want to do with it. But I agree to you that there is a balance to find in the way you mold or you create the space, so that it doesn't feel like, as you said, a cult or something like that, because it still needs to be able to be a kind of like a neutral place for people who want to have a place to work or like get together. So yeah, do I answer your question?
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting, because I think that we all obsess over creating spaces that appeal to everyone, and I don't think that one person can do that. I mean, what do you think, David?
Brilliant question. I think there's things that should be done to make the space feel particular to a target audience, but then there's things that you can do that are general, that can be applied to everybody. And I think those things focus around feelings of safety, feelings of being included. And by included there, I mean in two ways, if I was to boil it down. One is by being asked, so being involved in the process. How's your experience? Or before you turn up, being excessively informed about what to expect when they turn up, to remove anxiety. That also includes safety. But it also comes through being known. You feel belonging from a space, like when you walk into a restaurant and they recognize you, for example. That sense of being known gives people a feeling of belonging. And I think co-working has an extraordinary benefit in this regard, and the rest of the working world has yet to catch up on that sense of belonging, which comes from actively having people, a team, who care about such things and who try to connect people and get to know people and ask people about the experience that they're having. The office manager is dead. Long live the community manager. I think that's the direction we're going. And through that comes a sense then of ownership. So those people then walk into that building not feeling like tenants, but feeling like the process, and that they owned what's happening in those places. I don't know if that resonates at all with you, Mark, for example, with your experience.
I think that community it's so important, and the people at the end want to be among similar people, right? It's very difficult because every group it's different, but most of the common.
So in terms of that, Mark, I think there are common things that, even though you have different people, that everybody needs, and that's things like the feeling of safety and the feeling of inclusivity, and that inclusivity comes from having a community team that asks what you need and gets to know you and recognizes you. And so I do think that there are common elements that can be used to glue people together, no matter whether they're from banking or creative services or industry or whatever it might be. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, that's in fact an amazing question. For sure, there's more that brings us together than it separates us, from countries and cultures. For sure, there are some differences that, cultural difference, it's a thing and should be taken into consideration. But at the end, all of us are human beings. And there are, for example, some events that just work almost everywhere. And that's a thing. On the other hand, you mentioned something that it's really important. And in some spaces, sometimes it's overlooked. And it's a team that knows you and knows what the people need, what they like. And I think that everybody like to be understood and to be listened to. So I guess that you really find like a hidden gem, and not a lot of people are talking about that. Some operators said, we take care of our client, we really care about him or her, but at the end, sometimes you visit the spaces and you don't get this feeling. You just get the feeling that they don't know the client, and it's just about caring. So yeah, I completely agree with that. And sometimes it's just about about being more human. But I would love to know what Asil thinks about this.
Well, I thought you hit the nail on the head, David, actually, with, rest in peace, the office manager, and long live the community manager or community queen. I think that's a really insightful way of putting it, because actually what you want is somebody not to deal with just the logistic, but actually in creating that space that people do feel secure. I think that's a really good phrase to use, because that's an essential human element, as opposed to something like, free beer on Fridays, or, pizza Tuesdays, or, vegan Wednesdays, something like that, where it feels quite exclusive by the very nature of the topic it is, because not everyone likes pizza. Some people like a sausage. So it's up to the people to find out and learn about what makes people tick. I think that's I really like that.
That is beautiful. We are, as always, my car is parked on double yellow lines outside the studio, and I need to go and get it. So we need to wrap up there, folks. But this group of people will be at the Business Design Centre at the Workspace Design Show on the 27th, and some of them will be on the 28th. It's a 2-day event. Links in the show notes to all of that. There's this panel in the morning that is co-produced with Nexodus, and on the next day there is the launch of the Inclusion and Diversity book by the European Co-working Assembly, and that is supported by Nook, my favourite hidey hole for concentration and focus. Let's just go round, and can we kick off with you, Asil, and everyone say where we can find you online, and we'll put links in the show notes to your LinkedIn and stuff like that. And if there's anything you particularly want to draw our attention to, like something you're working on, feel free to say that. So Asil, what are you up to?
Yeah, I mean, you can Google my name, which is Asil. There aren't that many of us. ACEIL.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I was going to write never going to survive.
And I'm at Matt PR, MATTPR. So the chap's name, Matt. What was the last question again? Was it like
Asil, why is it called Matt? Why is it called Matt PR?
It is because it's an acronym for mums at the top, so MATT, and that is because of the pervasive nature of patriarchy in the workplace. So Matt doesn't work in my business. Sorry, guys.
Thank you. That's good. Karen, where can we find you?
So we're www.360workrooms.com or www.bexcic.co.uk.
Thank you very much. David, where's the best place to find you online, sir?
Yeah, looking forward to getting together with the panel and talking about this in more depth and giving some tips for how to make a space more inclusive to help. And you can find me on nookpod, NOOKPOD.com in the meantime.
Love it. Pauline?
Yeah, also looking forward to it. And you can find us on coworkies.book.com.
And there's that. I'm going to do a little plug for you here too, Pauline. There's a little community for people who have brought the book. And is it every month you do an online event?
Yes, every month.
Yeah. Okay. And a phenomenal Instagram going on there. And Mark, I don't suppose you're organising any events this year?
I'm organising indeed 2 events this year, and maybe more, who knows. To find me online, you can go to marknavarro.com, Mark with C, but I'm sure that Bernie is going to link it on the podcast. You can also find me in the lexwork.academy, and you can find me, of course, in Coworking Spain conference.es.
Thank you very much. And Co-working Spain this year is an amazing conference to go to, but it's the same day as the European Co-working Day on the 10th of May, and there's a whole big thing coming out about that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention. The folks on the panel here will be there on the 27th in London, in Islington, if you're wondering where to go there. And to all of you listening, thank you very much. Take care and be careful out there. It is a jungle.